So I know the holidays are coming up, um, but I had a craving for some meatloaf, and guess what? I had to make some. My girls love it. I love it. It's relatively cheap to make. So here, look, check this out. Let me spin this around for you. Tell me this doesn't look delicious. Meatloaf. Oh, the peppers, onions, garlic. Oh my goodness. You're going to enjoy this. Get this recipe and try it for yourself. Hey, this is Shrashira. That is the best elevator music I ever heard. For this recipe, we're going to need some pepper, about 2 teaspoons of pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt. We have about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. We have a diced up red bell pepper, about a quarter of a cup or so. Diced up green bell pepper, again about a quarter of a cup. Got about a half a cup of diced onion. We have a cup and a half of breadcrumbs, and I'll explain that here in a bit. We have some olive oil. We have a half a cup of brown sugar. We have a quarter of a cup of Worcestershire sauce. And we have 1 cup of ketchup. And we have 3 eggs. Naturally, we have our ground beef. About the breadcrumbs. So, the ground beef, I'm using 3 pounds of ground beef. So, my general rule of thumb is for every pound of ground beef for your meatloaf, you want to add about a half a cup of breadcrumbs. Okay? And also, for every pound of ground beef, you want to add 1 egg. So that's why we have 3 eggs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute the vegetables to get them nice and soft. Okay, so let's get the fire on. Put on medium. Going to add some olive oil so we can saute and soften the vegetables. Also at this point, this is where I will also season the meatloaf right here, the first seasoning. And we're going to saute, like I said, the other vegetables with it. With the exception of the garlic. We're not going to put the garlic in right away. We want to wait until the bell peppers and the onions soften up. So let's add these bell peppers. Green. Red bell peppers. Now, I soften my vegetables for my meatloaf. If you like to have, your vegetables a little more, have some bite or be crunchy, you can skip this part. Me personally, I don't like to bite into meatloaf and the vegetables, might not be quite done. I don't like that. But that's just my personal preference. So I give the vegetables a head start. So now we're going to add the salt and pepper. The pepper. If you don't like that much pepper, you don't have to add that much. I mean, you can reduce it. Same thing with the salt. You can, I won't say leave the salt out because you need that flavor. Because the salt's going to actually enhance the flavors. This may seem like there's a lot of seasonings in it, but just make sure you work the vegetables into the ground beef and you'll be fine. In fact, depending on your taste buds, you may not think it's seasoned enough. Probably going to give these a few more minutes. Okay, so we got about a minute left. And at this point, and only at this point, do you add the garlic. You do not want to burn your garlic. Now let's get this mixed in. Okay, we're going to give this another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then we turn the heat off. Now, we need to let this cool down for two reasons. One, you don't want to introduce the hot vegetables to the ground beef, or the eggs for that matter. And two, you want to be able to work with it. You don't want to burn yourself. You know, that's the worst, to get all hyped up to be cooking something, and then you burn yourself. It changes the whole mood. Trust me, been there, done that. So yeah, let this cool down. You know, if you have to, take it off the burner so it cools down a little faster. You know, every couple of minutes stir it, let the heat out. And I'd say about 10, 15 minutes it should be cool enough for you to handle. Alright, so for this part, you're going to get messy, so that's why I wear gloves. You know, there's a particular order to doing this that I like to do it in. First, I like to add the eggs. Just add them right into the ground beef. And you're going to use your hands and mix it. Just squish it. Squeeze and squish. You know, you wear gloves especially if you have fingernails. You know, you don't want this stuff to just get up on your nails. You know, that's what I used to hate. So I just start using gloves, right? Scrape the sides. Okay, now at this point, it's mixed in pretty good. Now at this point, we'll add the Worcestershire sauce and get it mixed in good. And this is the Worcestershire sauce, or Worcester sauce, however you want to pronounce it, depending on where you're from. It's going to give it that savory taste. And the breadcrumbs. Now, the reason I add the breadcrumbs at this point is because it's going to help separate the vegetables when you add the vegetables. Right? It's going to make mixing the vegetables up a lot easier. So this is halfway mixed. So now at this point we add the vegetables. They should be cooled down now. Yep, cool to the touch. Let's get them spread out. And using that same squishing technique, let's get it all mixed in. It's almost like kneading dough. You know, if you've ever kneaded dough, it's similar to that. And you know you're done when the vegetables have been properly dispersed throughout the meat and the breadcrumbs are no longer dry. Yeah, see? So if I just, well, you can't see me, but if I just randomly close my eyes, mix a bit, right, and then grab some, I should have vegetables. See? So you know it's mixed pretty good. We need to put these bad boys into some, I mean, you could mold it and put it on a cookie sheet with a cooling rack on it, put it on a cooling rack. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in some small 2.5 pound loaf pans. I'm going to add some in. You know, press it down and get some air out of there. You know, you don't want air pockets if it can be avoided. And you don't necessarily have to fill it all the way to the top. Now the reason I'm trying to get it into 3 pans is because I really want to save one, possibly freeze one for later. So it'd be like the gift that keeps on giving, you know what I mean? You know, because I've been craving meatloaf and I didn't have any. And You know, I didn't want to get the TV dinner meatloaf. I wanted my meatloaf. Oh, and in case you're wondering, yes, this makes a killer meatball. Preheat the oven. I should have already did it, but you know I didn't. We're going to set it for 350 degrees, and we're going to pop these in, and then we'll continue to the next step. Okay, so now let's make the glaze. Our ketchup glaze we're going to put on top. So we have our 1 cup of ketchup. You know me, I'm going to get that out of there, so stand by. Our 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Let's get this all mixed in. And we're going to let that sit. But at first, let me get the rest of this ketchup out of here. Alright, so let this sit and get happy. And when we come back, we'll be putting the meatloaf into the oven. We're going to put this into a 350 degree oven. For 45 minutes. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. Let's get these bad boys out. Now, depending on the grade of your ground beef, you may have some oil pooled in there. But yeah, by all means, you can pour that out. So as you can see, you know, I have a little bit of pooling here. I don't want that to stay in there. So I'm going to pour this out, and then we'll keep going. So just get this poured out. And that's a lot of oil. You don't want that in your body. So let's pour most of that out. Back on the rack. Next guy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ketchup brown sugar glaze and we're going to put it on top of our meatloaf. Alright, let's put this on. Spread it around. Because you want to make sure the top is nice and glazed. Okay, that's the whole point. Glaze the top. If it happens to go on the sides, bonus. But we want to make sure the top gets glazed. Now you don't have to get the, you know, the real lean ground beef. I mean, I'm using what was it? 73. I mean, if you want to use 97, you can. Nothing wrong with that. It's just for meatloaf, I just find that, you know, meatloaf is supposed to be a quick meal, a cheap meal. So you don't need to get, you know, the 93 or the 95 or even the 97% lean ground beef. This works. Alright, now we're going to put this back in the oven for 20 minutes. These are done now, and as luck would have it, one of my daughters showed up, so she's taking this with her. So I'm going to get this ready for her, and then we'll be right back. Some of these out and build a little plate. Yeah, that's the right consistency. I like that. Loving it, actually. And you gotta be careful when you're making these slices if you use these pans, because these pans are thin and you'll cut right through the pan. If you have a sharp knife like I just have, I cut through the pan, but it's okay. Pandemonium under control. It's gonna work out. Oh, wonderful. Look at that. Now tell me that wouldn't look good on some mashed potatoes. Look at that goodness. Oh man.